My father looked across the dinner table at me and said, "At least your sister has a real career that makes the family proud. You just stare at screens all day." Everyone laughed. My mother, my sister Claire, even my brother-in-law. 15 years of their choices crystallized in that moment. $80,000 spent on Claire's piano career, private lessons with renowned teachers, weekend competitions across 3 states, a $15,000 grand piano that dominated their living room. Meanwhile, my requests for $200 coding classes were met with, "That's not a real talent, Rachel." I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and turned the screen toward my father. The number glowed. 847 yuan, 392. "These screens paid off my house last month, Dad. How's that piano working out?" The laughter died instantly. My sister's face crumbled. My mother called me cruel. I stood up, grabbed my coat, and said the words I should have said years ago. Cruel is choosing which daughter deserves investment. I'm just showing results. What happened next is what you can't imagine. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Rachel Morgan, and I'm 32 years old. 15 years ago, I discovered coding in my high school computer lab and became obsessed. I asked my parents for $200 to take a community college coding course. My father dismissed me immediately. "That's not a real skill. Anyone can learn computers." That same week, Claire's piano teacher recommended advanced lessons at $300 per month. My parents agreed instantly, excited about her gift. I was 17. Claire was 14. And that moment set the pattern for the next 15 years. I taught myself to code using free online resources and library books. Claire got a new practice schedule that the entire family revolved around. My honor roll grades barely got acknowledged. Claire's recitals became major family events with extended family flying in from other states. 3 years later, my parents announced they were buying Claire a $15,000 grand piano. I was 20, paying my own community college tuition, working retail. I asked for $1,500 for a laptop for coding projects. My father said they could not afford both. Claire's talent requires proper instruments. You can use the family computer. I worked extra shifts for 6 months and bought a used laptop. Claire got her piano, complete with Instagram photo shoots and celebration dinners. I got my first coding internship, unpaid, and nobody even noticed. The pattern continued. Claire went to college for music performance with my parents paying full tuition. She traveled to competitions in New York, Chicago, Boston, all expenses covered. I graduated from State University with student loans and 2 jobs. Landed my first developer position at $55,000 a year. When I told my family excitedly, my father said, "That's nice, honey. Claire placed 3rd at the Midwest piano competition." The conversation immediately shifted back to her. Claire's college graduation got a massive party with relatives flying in. My graduation got a quick family dinner because they had to leave early for Claire's recital. When Claire announced she was pursuing a performance career in New York, my parents promised to help with rent until she got established. When I mentioned getting promoted to mid-level developer, my mother said, "That's good. You'll have stable income, not like Claire's risky artistic path." The implication was always there. My success was expected and boring. Claire's pursuit was brave and special. 8 years passed. Claire's performance career never materialized. The field was too competitive, too saturated. She ended up teaching beginner piano, making $30,000 a year in an expensive city. My parents still subsidized her rent at $1,500 a month. She made terrible financial decisions, financed an $8,000 digital piano she did not need, lived in a luxury apartment she could not afford, shopped beyond her means, credit card debt piled up. She asked my parents for help regularly, and they always gave it. Meanwhile, I climbed to senior software engineer making $250,000 a year. I bought a house with cash. But I kept quiet about my success because I did not want to seem like I was showing off. At family gatherings, Claire and her friends mocked my career. "Still in your basement coding? Must be so fulfilling." I stayed silent and polite. Then came the dinner that changed everything. My parents invited both of us over. Claire brought her husband Mark, also a struggling musician. The entire conversation revolved around Claire's updates, teaching beginners, a small recital at a community center. My parents praised every tiny achievement. When I mentioned leading a project that saved my company $2 million, my father barely looked up. That's nice. Claire, tell us about the recital. Mark joined the mockery. Rachel, do you ever look up from the computer screen? Must be a lonely life? Claire laughed. She's married to her laptop. Always has been. I felt 15 years of being overlooked rise in my throat, but I stayed quiet through dessert. Then my father delivered his final blow. Rachel, when are you going to find a real career? Something meaningful? At least your sister has a real career that makes the family proud. You just stare at screens all day. Everyone laughed. That was when I pulled out my phone and showed them the number that would shatter their entire worldview. $847,000. My voice was steady. These screens paid off my house last month, Dad. In cash. How's that $15,000 piano working out? The room went silent. Claire started crying. My mother gasped and called me cruel. I stood up and said what I should have said years ago. Cruel is spending $80,000 on one daughter's dream while telling the other her passion isn't real. Cruel is choosing which daughter deserves investment. I'm just showing results. I grabbed my coat and walked out. As I drove away in my paid-off Tesla, my phone started buzzing with calls and texts. I blocked every single one of them. My parents, Claire, Mark, every number I recognized. Then a message came through from an unknown number. I opened it at a red light. It was Claire, using Mark's phone. 3 words. I need money. My phone exploded with messages from numbers I had never seen before. Relatives I had not heard from in years suddenly had opinions. Aunt Susan texted, "Your mother is heartbroken. How could you embarrass Claire like that?" Cousin Lisa wrote, "Everyone's talking about what you said." That was harsh. Someone had photographed my phone screen showing my bank balance. Screenshots were circulating through family group chats I was never invited to. Claire's friends posted vague social media statements about people who measure success in dollars. Within 48 hours, I went from being ignored to being the villain. My success was dismissed as luck and soulless corporate work. Claire's struggles were being romanticized as artistic integrity. Claire's messages became increasingly desperate. Day 1. Rachel, please, can we talk? I need help. Day 2. I'm in real trouble. $15,000 in credit card debt. Mark lost his teaching position. Please. Day 3. I know you have money. You showed everyone. Please help me. Family helps family. Her voicemails revealed everything. She and Mark could not make rent and were facing eviction. The financial hole was deep. $15,000 on credit cards, $8,000 owed on the financed piano, $3,000 behind on rent. She was asking for $30,000 total. And she never once apologized for the dinner, for years of mocking my career, for treating my success like it was worthless. She just assumed I would help, because that is what family does. Then my parents showed up at my house uninvited on Saturday morning. I let them in against my better judgment. They sat in my living room, looking around at the expensive furniture, the minimalist design, the clear evidence of my success. My father said quietly, "You've done well for yourself." My mother got straight to the point. "We need to talk about Claire. She needs help." "I'm aware. She sent me about 50 messages. Are you going to help her or not?" "No." My mother started crying. "How can you be so heartless? She's your sister." Where was this energy when I needed help? When I asked for a $200 coding class? My father's voice hardened. That was different. We were investing in Claire's talent. And I had no talent? My career that you mocked at dinner is worthless? They tried guilt, obligation, family loyalty. I stayed firm. You made your choice 15 years ago. You invested everything in Claire. She's an adult who made poor financial decisions, and I'm not bailing her out. My mother pleaded. We made mistakes. We see that now. But punishing Claire would not change the past. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just not rescuing her from consequences. My father stood up, angry. Fine, but don't expect to be part of this family anymore. I haven't been part of this family for 15 years. I've just been the backup plan you never needed until now. They left. My mother was sobbing. My father was furious. The next day, Claire posted on Facebook. She did not name me but heavily implied everything. When family has resources but refuses to help, it shows their true character. Success without compassion is just selfishness. Hundreds of people who did not know the full story rallied around her. Comments poured in about how family should always help family, how money changes people. Then my younger brother Josh asked to meet for coffee. I almost said no, but agreed. He sat across from me and said the words I needed to hear. I'm not here to ask you for money for Claire. I think you're right to say no. He had watched the dynamic his whole life. They gave Claire everything, you got nothing. Claire has always been bailed out. This is the first time she's facing real consequences. He showed me Claire's Venmo history. Expensive dinners, shopping, concerts. She's not struggling because she doesn't earn enough. She's struggling because she spends like she makes your salary. I finally felt validated by someone in my family. That night, I stared at Claire's desperate messages and typed 2 words: learn to code. I added context about how I had built everything myself, how she had the same option I did. I hit send. Her response was immediate and furious. You're a heartless fellow. I hope you're happy being rich and alone. I blocked that number too. For the first time in my life, I was not responsible for everyone else's feelings. 3 weeks passed in peace. Then I received a LinkedIn message that would change everything. Hi Rachel, we're looking for a senior engineer to lead our AI division. Interested in discussing a $400,000 package? The same week, a local coding bootcamp asked me to be their founding scholarship donor for women in tech. My success was not just personal anymore, it was becoming a platform. I stared at the scholarship proposal on my screen. $50,000 to fund coding education for 5 women per year. I thought about 17-year-old Rachel who could not afford a $200 class. I made the donation immediately and accepted the $400,000 job offer. I posted on LinkedIn, excited to announce I'm joining my new company and launching the Morgan Scholarship for Women in Tech, because every girl who loves coding deserves support, regardless of what others think of her talent. The post went viral, 10,000 likes, hundreds of messages from young women saying they needed to see this. I had turned my pain into purpose. 3 months later, Josh mentioned that Claire and Mark had moved to a smaller apartment in a less expensive city. She was working 2 jobs, music store during the day, teaching at night. Her social media shifted from complaints to posts about her students. One caught my eye. Teaching a beginner today who couldn't afford lessons. Worked out payment plan. Sometimes investment in others matters more than immediate profit. It was the first sign she might be learning, but still no apology to me. Just quiet change. 6 months after the dinner, my mother sent an email admitting they made mistakes and were proud of me. But then she asked for advice on investments. I saw it immediately. They wanted access to my expertise now. I sent a brief text. I appreciate you acknowledging mistakes. I'm not ready to rebuild our relationship. Maybe someday. But right now, I need space. 1 year later, I stood at the first scholarship ceremony meeting 5 young women from backgrounds like mine. Sophia told me her parents thought coding was for boys. Jasmine had been working 3 jobs to afford boot camp. I mentored them throughout their programs and watched them succeed. When Sophia got a $75,000 job offer, she messaged me crying with joy. My parents still don't get it, but I don't care anymore. Thank you for believing in me. That was when the healing I did not know I needed finally came. 2 years after the dinner, Claire messaged from a new number, not asking for money this time. She told me she had enrolled in online business courses, started an online music education platform, got a small business loan. I'm not rich, but I'm okay. I'm doing it myself. I finally understand what you've been trying to tell me. I'm sorry for how I treated you. You were right to say no. I stared at the message for days before replying. Thank you for saying that. I'm glad you're finding your way. I hope you're proud of what you're building. I am. For the first time, I understand what that feels like. We did not become close, but the hostility ended. Months later, I stood on stage at a tech conference as the keynote speaker. My topic? Building success without support systems. I told my story with power, not bitterness. My family invested in what they understood. When I asked for help learning to code, I was told it wasn't real talent. So I learned anyway. If nobody invests in your dream, invest in yourself. Success built on your own foundation is unshakable. Standing ovation. In the back of the room, I saw Claire. Our eyes met. She nodded once. I nodded back. No reunion. Just acknowledgement. They spent $80,000 telling one daughter she had talent and the other she did not. 15 years later, the daughter they dismissed is changing lives and proving that talent is not determined by who believes in you. My screens did not just pay off my house, they built a legacy. And no grand piano can compete with that. Thanks for listening to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself and never letting anyone define your worth.